and see what's good, but I just want to let you know what is good, YouTube. I'm back again on my regular channel. This is probably the Renaissance channel, the J-Bo Speaks channel, but I'm having a big problem with my channel because I've been trying to switch and put all my content into one particular channel based on what it is that I'm doing, but for some reason YouTube's on this tip where they won't let me live stream on all my channels. So I'm gonna have to keep putting content here until I get that fixed. But I'm glad that you're with me because I'm gonna do something that I'm gonna do very frequently on my FedUp Sports Media channel. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna revisit some things that I said in the past in regards to the NFL draft of 2018. I think this is probably one of my more fun videos. I actually love doing content like this. Probably, this is more so of a hobby of mine, but I really like doing this type of content because I get to kind of give you kind of a look that nobody else sees, and I get to kind of say some things that nobody else also is going to say. So that being started, let me give you the premise of this video. The premise of this video is the fact that in 2018, I had a listing of my top 5 quarterbacks. Now, I'm going to talk about 6 quarterbacks in that draft just for the simple fact that one of them happens to play for my Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm going to talk about my original views and ratings on them before they got drafted. And I'm going to talk about how they've done in the NFL and whether or not I was right or wrong based on each prospect. And I'm also going to talk about where their careers have gone and what do I think might have happened. And so I'm going to give you guys probably the most unique perspective in all of sports. Nobody else, listen to me, nobody else is going to tell you the type of information that I'm telling you. All right. So get your popcorn ready. Let's get started. This is how it goes. 2018, there were 5 quarterbacks who were supposed to come out, and they came out. And so in terms of where they were, here's what happened. The order of quarterbacks that were taken, as you know, Baker Mayfield was taken number 1, much to my dismay at the time. I'm going to get more into why I felt that way about that. But if you remember, the order was Baker Mayfield was the first quarterback off the board, followed by Sam Darnold, followed by Josh Allen, then Josh Rosen, then Lamar Jackson, and then my Pittsburgh Steelers backup quarterback, Mason Rudolph, just for fun later on, because I need to take some shots at the Steelers later on when it comes to that. So let me give you my truthful ratings for what I had for the quarterbacks back then. And this is not, I want to make this clear as I say this is not because of what it is that I've seen since then. No, it's not because of what I've seen since then. I want to make that very clear. These are things that I said before the draft. And in fact, at some point, I'm going to have a guest on who can confirm that all the stuff that I'm telling you, I've said. So my number 1 quarterback that year coming out of the draft, I said should have been Lamar Jackson. I'm going to talk more about him later, but that's who I said was the best quarterback in that draft in terms of the ability to impact the team immediately, the ability to play in the NFL right away, the ability to have a team win. If you're in a bind and you want a quarterback that's going to help you win, I said Lamar Jackson should be taken first overall. I said that Lamar Jackson should be the first overall pick after he won the Heisman Trophy playing in Louisville. But that's another part of the story that I'll get into much later. Now, the second quarterback that I had in that draft, and I kid you not, this is true, it was Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. That was my second quarterback. Even though if I was a general manager, I actually would have taken Josh Allen as my first quarterback if I had the number 1 pick over Lamar Jackson for reasons that I'll get into later. But Josh Rosen was Then my third ranked quarterback, I actually really like Josh Rosen. I still do like Josh Rosen, but his career hasn't gone as it probably could have, and we'll talk more about him. The fourth person I had was Sam Darnold. I'll give my reasons why I had him four. And fifth, believe it or not, even though he ended up going number one, much to my dismay, was Baker. I call him No He Can't Mayfield. And I'm going to tell you why I call him No He Can't Mayfield in just a moment, because the reason why I had these ratings like this, let me just give you the order of the draft, and let me give you my evaluations and my thoughts at the time. And I'm going to take you down memory lane so that you know how I think and so that you can see where I get my evaluations from and how I evaluate quarterbacks. All right. So, first pick of the draft, Cleveland shocked the world when they drafted Baker Mayfield number one. I was shocked. To be honest, I didn't think that Baker Mayfield was even a first round pick. Yes, I said it. I did not believe that Baker Mayfield was even a first round pick. Yes, he does have arm talent and arm strength. Yes. Yes, he did put up great numbers playing at Oklahoma. Yes. Yes, he did lead Oklahoma to heights that they haven't been in a few years in terms of competing for national championships and elevating his team. Yes, he did do all of those things. But my biggest issue with Baker Mayfield wasn't what the scouts said, which was that he was just too short to play in the NFL. You know, that wasn't my knock on Baker Mayfield, because remember, the knock on Baker Mayfield, usually it always began with his height. It always began with his height, and a lot of people didn't know if he was fast enough to run around and be mobile enough at the NFL level to elude pressure the way that he did in college. Believe it or not, those were not my knocks on Baker Mayfield. My issue with Baker Mayfield actually comes from the fact that he has a strong arm, because I said that Baker Mayfield didn't always do the best job of anticipating throws. He did not always do the best job of anticipating throws. The very first thing that I look at as a quarterback evaluator is I look at decision making. More importantly, the ability to make quick decisions. That's like one of the first and primary things that I look at as a quarterback. And for me, decision making goes right up there with the next thing that I look for in a quarterback, which is anticipation. Does he anticipate throws? Anticipating throws is directly connected to your decision making, because we can see if you can read defenses and if you know where to go with the football when you see certain coverages. When you see certain coverages and you can recognize them and you know where to go with the football, that tells me that you're studying the game. All right. That tells me that you're a student of the game. That tells me that you prepared beforehand and you know what it is that you're looking for in this team's defense, so that you can get the looks that you want and you can get the ball to who it needs to get to. Baker Mayfield, one of the things that the scouts said that they liked about Baker Mayfield so much that they talked about was his ability to throw into tight windows. Now, even though that's good, because it means that he has great arm strength, which he does. He has fantastic arm strength. It also means that the reason why he has to throw into tight windows is because he's reading things late and the ball's going to different places late, which means that he is relying too much on his arm strength and not enough on his anticipation. And at the NFL level, for me, when guys are faster and when defenses have time to study you and when teams figure you out year after year after year and they invent new ways to come after you and to make sure that you're not successful, you being late, you being a half second late at the NFL level is entirely different from college, where guys are usually just superior athletes if you're at a place like Oklahoma. So that was my knock on Baker Mayfield. Now, I did think that if he had a good coach and if he sat behind somebody, he could develop into a really good starting NFL quarterback if he learned how to anticipate throws. But due to the fact that most NFL teams cannot coach quarterbacks and cannot develop quarterbacks, and there's probably about maybe 3 or 4 good quarterbacks coaches in the league, I didn't think that he would be successful getting to the NFL and actually uh, and actually succeeding at the NFL level. So this year he's been good, somewhat. It depends on the game, but everybody knows Baker Mayfield struggles and what he struggles with. But I've talked already too long on Baker Mayfield because I didn't want to make this a long video and a long podcast. But Baker Mayfield went number one. My thoughts on Baker Mayfield were he was the 5th best quarterback. I still call him Baker. No, he can't Mayfield, because when somebody asked me, could he do what he did in college at the next level? I said, no, he can't. And that's exactly why I had him as number, go back to my ratings, 5 on my list of quarterbacks. Now, the next quarterback that was actually taken in that draft, if you remember, was, and I probably shouldn't call him this, but I just think it's funny. I call him Sam Got Mono Darnold. His name is Sam Got Mono Darnold because, I never heard of like somebody grown getting mono. Normally that's something that you get in high school. Yeah, usually back in the day, and I don't know, maybe I'm getting old. That was the kissing disease. You used to get mono from French kissing people. So I thought it was kind of funny that he not only had mono as a grown man, but he actually missed games. He actually missed games with mono. And to me, like that takes the cake on Sam Darnold. But anyway, Sam Darnold was the second quarterback in that draft that was taken. I think he went number 3 to the Jets. And Sam Darnold was compared to, when he came out of college, he was compared to a guy who I see in Pittsburgh all the time. He was compared to a young Ben Roethlisberger. Now, I can see kind of maybe where they got that from, because of his ability to move and scramble, and because of his size, and because of his ability to extend plays. But to be honest, I didn't think that he reminded me that much of Ben Roethlisberger, and here's why. Because one thing that Ben Roethlisberger did, even in college, and I didn't think Sam Darnold did enough of, is Ben Roethlisberger elevates the play of his teammates. I didn't think that Sam Darnold a lot of times elevated the play of his teammates as much as he could have. For a guy that's supposed to be a great quarterback like him in college, he's a number 3 pick overall, I thought that would equate to a couple more wins. And one thing that Ben did and Ben does very well, and he's always done even since he was a rookie, is he knows how to win games. He knows how to be able to get you over the top, to make enough plays at crucial times to beat teams that you probably shouldn't beat. I didn't really see that from Sam Darnold at the college level. So the knocks on him were that he also used to recognize coverages late too. He also was a late thrower. He also was a guy who I didn't believe anticipated throws. Now, he has a couple of highlight reels where he does have some anticipation throws, and they're great. He has the arm strength. His arm isn't Aaron Rodgers, but he does have the arm strength needed to make all of the throws. He can throw the deep ball. He can throw the intermediate routes. He can throw the short routes. I think his accuracy, in some cases leaves a lot to be desired, but I think that that's things that you can correct with coaching. And I didn't think, though, that Sam Darnold was, as much as they said that he was a top 10 pick and all this other stuff, I didn't think that he was really a top 10 pick. In fact, in my ratings, I had him as the 4th best quarterback, because I didn't think that if he got to the NFL and had to start, I didn't think that he would be able to elevate his team. And even though I like his physical attributes, I think his physical attributes are there to be a great quarterback. I didn't think mentally he could anticipate throws and make the correct decisions at the speed needed to be successful at the NFL level. So that's why I had Sam Darnold as the fourth best quarterback in that draft. And so far, I mean, his career hasn't really been that great. I mean, they're trying to get rid of him now. Now they want to go out and try to get Trevor Lawrence this year in the draft, which is another topic for another day, which I'm going to talk about Trevor Lawrence in a whole nother video. But now they want to get rid of Sam Darnold. And the Jets fans that I talk to are always trying to pawn him off on me as a Steeler fan, saying that we should trade for him and give up a pick. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure if we can do that here because, we have another guy who we're dealing with, but that's another part of the issue that I'm going to get into later. But that was my thought on Sam Darnold at the time. I think he's a good young talent, but I think he needs the right coach to be able to coach him. And I think he needs the right team and system to get him to be able to learn how to play at this level. I think he needs time. And that's one thing that the NFL hasn't really allowed a lot of these young guys to do. They don't really allow young guys to develop as quarterbacks. They want you to be successful in year one or year two, and then they're trying to move on. So I think Sam Darnold has a lot of talent, but I think he needs the right coaching staff. And him playing in New York with that coaching staff, with Adam Gase, that's not really helping him that much. He's in a different system than the one that he was in, I think, his rookie year. It just hasn't gone well. And that's the death blow for a young quarterback, is to be in multiple systems, multiple years without any stability, without any good coaching. So we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold in the future. But that's where I had him at in my list and in my rating back then in 2018. And it seems like I'm right. So far, I'm doing pretty good. I think, even though some people would say Baker Mayfield's having a good year this year, I think he's having, I think he is winning games, but I don't think he's number one pick, type good. But that's another story. Now, the next quarterback that was taken in that draft, and I got to talk about this guy because in that draft, I must admit that even though I had Lamar Jackson number one as the QB to take if you're a team trying to win, my favorite quarterback coming out of that draft was this guy here, Josh Allen. And the scouts at the time, I remember the scouts, a lot of scouts were down on Josh Allen. And I never understood why. I know they talked about the system he ran at Wyoming and how he was inaccurate and how he only threw for 1,500 yards one year, and how even though he had all the physical tools, he couldn't run an NFL system and all this. But when I turned on the film of Josh Allen, I saw him, and I'm going to use the same verbiage that they used when they justified drafting Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. I saw him running the system that the coach told him to run. That's what I saw. I saw him running the system that he was told to run, and I accounted for the fact that since he was playing at Wyoming, he's not going to have the athletes who are the better athletes, just running around wide open. And so one thing that I look at when I evaluate players, especially quarterbacks, is I talked about anticipation. I talked about decision making, but one thing that I really put in that category, I want to say it's probably second in my list, because I put the decision making thing with anticipation. That's kind of hand in hand. The second thing that I look at is arm talent. I'm going to say that again. It's arm talent. There's a difference to me between arm strength and arm talent. All right? This guy right here, Baker Mayfield, he has arm strength. This guy right here, though, Josh Allen, he has arm talent, because not only does Josh Allen have the arm strength to be able to make throws, I think that Josh Allen has the ability to change how he throws the ball to get the ball to where it needs to go. And that also accounts for if you need to throw sidearms, if you need to throw underhand, if you need to throw on your back foot running away, if you need to throw running to your left and then throw back to your right, if you need to run to your right and throw back to your left, if you need to be able to throw with somebody with their hand on you, can you still make a good throw? Can you get the ball to where it needs to go to, no matter the circumstance? And so I thought that Josh Allen had the best arm talent in this draft. Now, I know people said he was inaccurate and all these different things, but to be honest, when I looked at him, I saw a kid that had not been coached to be a quarterback by a quarterback guru. And one thing that I will account for if I'm doing a evaluation, and this is why I think most NFL GMs end up getting fired at some point, you have to have the confidence that when you get a guy into your system or onto your team, that you have the ability to be able to coach up his deficiencies. So when I see the fact that he might be inaccurate, when I see the fact that he might throw balls that might sail over somebody's head if he throws the ball, and the ball might sail, or if I see him throw a ball and the ball is short armed, I can probably look at his mechanics and say, listen, I get him a good quarterback's coach. I can coach his mechanics. And the one thing that these GMs are privy to that we're not privy to, that makes it, for me, I would think would make it easier to draft some of these guys, is they can do pre-draft interviews. They can talk to a guy and find out where his head is at in terms of, does he have the work ethic to want to work to be great? Does he have the ability to be able to go into the classroom or into the meeting room and to be able to pick up what it is that you're telling him? Does he want to be a quarterback? Does he want to make this his full-time job? Is quarterbacking his life? Is he going to take this home with him? Is he going to make it a point where he wakes up in the morning whenever somebody's not asking him to? Is he going to put in the work ethic needed to improve on his weaknesses? And you can get that not just from a pre-draft interview, because a lot of people will say, well, guys lie at their pre-draft interviews and you can't really tell that much. Okay, I can acknowledge this probably is also true. There is some truth to that. So I look at the other part of it, which is, let me talk to his college coaches. Now, I'm not saying college coaches are always right, because sometimes some college coaches just don't know what they're doing. But one thing that most college coaches will be able to tell you is they'll be able to tell you if this guy has the work ethic and where this guy's head is. Is this guy on Friday nights and Saturday nights after games out getting drunk, or is he coming back to the film room asking what does he need to do to get better? Is he back in the room on Sunday morning looking over game tape to see why he missed a certain throw, why he missed a certain read? Does he have the work ethic whenever somebody's not telling him to be able to push himself? And so Josh Allen's coaches gave that vote of confidence to him and said that he had a great work ethic. They said that he wanted to learn. They said that he was willing to learn. And so when I looked at his physical attributes, because he's tall, he's not only is he tall, he's big. He's a big guy. This guy's about 240 pounds. When you're over 6'5", when you're about 6'5", 6'6", and you're 240 pounds, and you can run and move the way that he can move because he's mobile, if I can get this guy to buy into our coaching and our scheme, I believe that I can develop this quarterback. And as a GM, if I don't have coaches that I believe can develop my players, then we need to fire you. And so I got to give the Bills credit, because they saw what a lot of people didn't see, because a lot of people thought Josh Allen was a project. They said that he was a long-term project. They said he would take three or 4 years at best to be a starter. That's what they said. But the Bills went in there. They had a plan. They got a quarterbacks coach. They got a coach who knew how to develop quarterbacks. They got a coach who looked at his mechanics and coached him and taught him how to throw the football, taught him how to set his feet, taught him how to read defenses. And then you can just build from there on the physical gifts and attributes that he already has. And so that's why Josh Allen would have been, if I had the number one pick in that draft, I would have taken Josh Allen number one, even over Lamar Jackson, even though I really loved Lamar Jackson as a player coming out of college. All right. So those were my thoughts on my boy Josh Allen. And, he's playing at what I think is a MVP candidate level this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing where his career goes to from here. But let's get to the next pick that was taken, because this guy was taken after him. And I call him Josh the Chosen Rosen. Josh the Chosen Rosen, because this guy is a golden boy. This guy has seemingly all of the gifts that you would need to be an NFL quarterback. And at that time in that draft, I had Josh Rosen, and you can look at it, he was my number 3 quarterback. So I'm sure that you're asking the question, well, all right, Justin, so you had this as your number 3 quarterback. All these other guys are starters, and this guy's not. What do you think happened to this guy? Well, I'm glad that you asked that question, because Josh Rosen's tale is a tale of what happens when you are drafted as a quarterback to an incompetent franchise and an incompetent team that does not know how to build a team. They don't know how to build a team in terms of personnel. They don't know how to build a team in terms of getting a coaching staff that is there to develop players. And they don't put you in a position as a player to be able to succeed. So when he gets drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, they just didn't put him in a position to succeed. He had a bad offensive line. He had aging receivers. Even though I love Larry Fitzgerald, they didn't have the greatest of compliments at wide receiver that were going to help him. And when you don't have an offensive line, you're not going to win too many football games, because watch this. The game of football, even though a lot of people love the flashy wide receivers and running backs and corners and all the skill position players, the game of football ultimately is still a game that is started and it finishes. It begins and ends on the offensive and defensive line. It begins at the football. So you always, as a football team, should be building your football team from the football out. And Josh Rosen never had an offensive line. You couple that with the fact that his quarterback's coach wasn't great. They didn't really believe in him by the time he started, because he had some struggles, because Josh Rosen doesn't have the mobility that a Josh Allen has, or that a Baker Mayfield has, or that a Sam Darnold has. In fact, he is a prototypical, what we would call, pocket passing quarterback. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with pocket passing quarterbacks, and people will tell you that in today's NFL, you can't have a pocket passing quarterback, even though guys like Tom Brady have won Super Bowls and championships and do nothing but win games. But that's what they say. But the problem isn't him being a pocket passing quarterback. The problem is with Josh Rosen is surrounding him with the right personnel and getting him with a quarterback's coach who actually can teach him how to anticipate throws at the NFL level. I believe that he actually can do these things. I just believe that he hasn't been in the right situation. I think that a guy like Josh Rosen would have been a perfect fit on a team like, say, the Oakland Raiders, because the Oakland Raiders have Derek Carr. It's a West Coast offense. John Gruden knows how to coach quarterbacks. I think a system like the Oakland Raiders, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Oakland. Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders. But I think a system like the Las Vegas Raiders would have been perfect. Like the West Coast offense would have been perfect. I think the system that he's in now in Tampa, I'm not in love with Bruce Arians' scheme, but I'm in love with the situation because he has players around him who can play once Tom Brady does retire if they keep him around. Um, but Josh Rosen is a quarterback that needs to be in a system where it's a West Coast offense or it's a classic prototypical NFL offense. I think another guy who he would do good in his system would have been a guy like Gary Kubiak or a Norv Turner type. I think Josh Rosen, because his strengths to me, and this is why I had him rated number 3. Josh Rosen does have a great arm. I've seen Josh Rosen anticipate throws in college. I watched a game where he was playing against Texas A&M in college, and his offensive line was actually losing a lot of battles, but he would step up in the pocket in the face of the blitz, and he would make throw after throw after throw, and he can make these throws on time. And he can make them to all the areas of the field. He could throw the out route. He could throw the deep dig. He could throw the deep post. He could throw the deep corner route. He could throw the 9 route. He can throw every type of pass that you need in order to run an offense, which is why I really like Josh Rosen. I think if he just was on a better team, he would have had a better career so far. But unfortunately for him, he went to a team that was in transition. They didn't have an offensive line, which drives me insane that these teams do this to these quarterbacks because they go out and they go 2-14 and 3-13 and 4-12 and 1-15 and 0-16. And the first thing that they always say is, well, we need a quarterback. Meanwhile, your offensive line is trash. Your receivers can't get no separation, and you have no scheme that is going to be conducive for actually winning football games in terms of the personnel that you do have. So I think Josh Rosen got a raw deal in both Miami and in Arizona. And so hopefully at some point in time, maybe we get to see him with Tampa Bay run that same offense that Tom Brady is running now. But I actually really like Josh Rosen. I like his arm strength. I like his accuracy. I like his ability to step up in the pocket. He kind of has that thing where, and I believe a quarterback like David Carr reminds me of this. Um, Kind of reminds me of David Carr, where David Carr really should have had a great NFL career, but because he went to a team that didn't know how to build, it ends up messing up his career because he gets sacked so much, he gets hit so much, and by the time that they finally figure out what it is that they want to do as a football team, he's a little bit older, he has a few injuries, and they think that they can do better, and then they finally bring in somebody else, and he never gets the chance to be able to lead a better team with a chance to actually compete. So I think he reminds me a little bit of that. So hopefully he gets a chance in the future to be able to do something because I really like Josh Rosen. I really do. I wish he would. I wish that the Steelers would have thought to be able to go and sign him, but that's another story in and of itself. But let's go back to my ratings for this guy who was the quarterback that was on my list, who was number 1. And let me tell you a little bit about Lamar Jackson and why I had Lamar Jackson number 1. All right. And this is going to shock some people. And this is why, if you have not subscribed to this channel, this is why you need to actually subscribe, because nobody else is going to tell you these type of things that I'm going to tell you. All right. So Lamar Jackson, coming into college, went to Louisville because Louisville was the only school that promised that he would be able to have a chance and a shot at playing quarterback, and they would let him play quarterback. He was coached under one of my favorite offensive minds in terms of being a coordinator and being able to come up with a scheme that really is successful in terms of offense. He was coached by a former guy who used to coach in the NFL, who actually has NFL experience, Bobby Petrino. So he ran the Bobby Petrino offense, which, if you remember, Bobby Petrino back in the day was supposed to be a coach for Michael Vick. And the reason why they hired him in Atlanta as a head coach is because his scheme is very conducive for fitting who you have to your scheme. Bobby Petrino is very good at looking at his players and looking at who's who and the talent that he has and their attributes. And he's very good at being able to say, okay, I have receivers, so I'm going to spread the field out and throw to the receivers. And likewise, he can look at his team and say, all right, we have a big offensive line. We have good running backs. I'm going to bring everybody in and I'm going to run the ball and I'm going to run play action off the run. But also, one thing that his scheme also does is he makes sure that he has all of the throws in front of the quarterback. And he also makes it so that you, as a quarterback, can read the field and find matchups. And this is why Lamar Jackson in college was able to do what he did in terms of the Heisman Trophy. He was able to run around. He was able to throw the football downfield. I've seen him make out route throws that were unbelievable. I've seen him make throws with zip. I saw him have plenty of arm strength. In fact, Lamar Jackson has what I would call arm talent. He has the ability to get the football wherever he wants to get the football to. The issue with Lamar Jackson, and I go back to what I do whenever I rank quarterbacks, is his issue always was in terms of decision making as a quarterback. Can he anticipate throws? And the one thing that the Bobby Petrino offense does is because it's based on matchups, because it's based on finding matchups, you don't have to usually make second and third and fourth reads because you can look at your matchups pre-snap and decide where you want to go with the football. So therefore you can take 3 steps, throw, 5 steps, throw. But the issue with this is that at the NFL level, teams and defenses are going to change what they do once you look at them. And so you have to be able to come off of a guy and look to another guy and still be able to make these throws on time. And this is where Lamar Jackson struggles at, because the system that they run in Baltimore, even though it takes advantage of his running ability, which I haven't even talked about his running ability. Even though it takes advantage of his running ability, it does not help him or develop him as a quarterback who can anticipate throws. And this is why teams have been starting to catch up to how they play and why they're making him throw the ball now and why they're doing things to force him into the pocket. I actually think that a very good thing that they could do if they really wanted to help Lamar Jackson out is probably hire Bobby Petrino as an offensive coordinator or as an offensive consultant. That would be an unbelievable pairing at the NFL level. But that's another story for another day. But I had Lamar Jackson as my number one quarterback because I felt like even with all of that, I felt like his physical gifts in terms of him being able to run would make it so that he can run around and make plays with his legs while he learns how to anticipate throws. And I thought that even with him not having the greatest of anticipation, I thought he had enough accuracy, enough arm strength to be able to make all the throws and to be able to start and lead a team to a playoff run. I thought that he would be able to come in and fundamentally change how a team runs their offense, which he did. It looks like I was right. That's what Baltimore saw whenever they saw Lamar Jackson. So they got him. And if you notice, they changed the way that they played. And Lamar Jackson, he reminds a lot of people of Michael Vick. I think he might be a little faster than Michael Vick in terms of if you run 80 yards, I think Lamar Jackson's faster. But I think if Michael Vick runs 20 yards or 40 yards, I think Vick might have been faster. But I think Vick still has the better arm, and Michael Vick still had that amazing arm strength. I mean, just amazing. But I think that Lamar Jackson, if he takes an off season and if he gets the right quarterbacks coach, I think they need to go over how to get him to read defenses and how to come off of his first and second read and still throw the ball on time. Because that's why teams are able to now kind of slow him down more, because you can't just count on running around at the NFL level. Eventually, teams are going to figure it out and they're going to find a way to slow you down. Even with him being a superior athlete, even with him having physical gifts that are better than everybody, eventually, and you can quote me on this, eventually the league catches up to everybody. All right. Even the guys who are successful and have multiple championships and multiple runs, they have to consistently change their game. They have to consistently make different types of adjustments based on what teams are doing to them. So Lamar Jackson, he had a great arm strength, great accuracy in terms of when he wanted to throw the ball to a certain spot, he could. The issue with him is going to be when you expand the playbook and expand the passing game, can you get him to make secondary and third and fourth reads? Can you get him to come off of his receivers deep and then check down low? Can you get him to see a seam high and then and then come back to an out route underneath? Can you get him to look off a safety one way and then come back the other way? These are the little nuances that Lamar Jackson is still learning. But as you can see, he's still playing at an MVP type level. He's still, I think he's won an MVP already, and he's been great. Now, this is just for me so far because I I had to do this because I can never resist a shot at my Pittsburgh Steelers because of how they've done this next guy. Because even though he wasn't in the top five of my quarterbacks, I got to do him because he's a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I might as well have fun and talk about what's going on with the sixth quarterback that was taken in this draft, Mason Rudolph. Now, Mason Rudolph, I'll admit, at the time, I didn't have him in my top five. In fact, I said at the time, and I'm remembering, I said at the time that Mason Rudolph made a mistake in coming out. I thought that he should have waited another year, went back to Oklahoma State, and I thought that if he would have went back to school, if he came back out, he probably could have been a late first round, early second round pick, and done himself a lot of favors by being able to make more money. But even though I was not in love with the Steelers drafting him because we had Ben Roethlisberger, I was still happy with the fact that they chose to try to see if they could get a franchise quarterback for the future. Now, his first year, he didn't play too much and he was a backup quarterback. But his second year, he got a chance to start because, as you know, last year Ben Roethlisberger got hurt and this man had to step in and play. My knock on him in college was, and this is where I get on guys, is that in college, when you play in a system like Oklahoma State, and it's a spread offense, and you're just spreading the ball around the field, the thing is with that type of system is that guys are always going to be running around wide open because either you have the superior athletes or there's so many pick routes or there's just so many guys running around. There's going to be guys that you can throw to and you can look at them and see that they're wide open and make the throw. But that doesn't speak to your ability to, and here it is again, your decision-making ability to be able to anticipate throws. That's the most important thing for me looking at quarterbacks. And for him, he never had to do that in college. So I was kind of concerned on how long it would take for him to be able to learn how to anticipate throws and how to be able to do what I call throwing guys open. Because at the NFL level, you're not always going to get guys who are wide open. You sometimes have to throw guys open, such as when a guy's running down the sideline on a 9 route, you throw and aim at his back shoulder and you throw it behind him so he can see it and make an adjustment and catch the ball while a defender's on him. Throwing a ball on a dig route where the guy might not look like he's open, but you put it in a spot where he can go down and he can get it, or you put it a little bit in front of him where he has to make a contested catch, but it's a window that only he can get. Like, these are throws that you have to learn how to make. But I think Mason Rudolph didn't necessarily learn how to do that. And he would have had to have learned that at the pro level. Now, I think from him watching Ben, he saw that he had to start doing that. And so early in the year last year when Ben got hurt, you saw him make some throws like that. Some throws that he made. I go back to a game against San Francisco where he throws the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster, and he throws the ball on time, and basically he throws them open. He catches the ball and he runs away from everybody, and he scores a long touchdown. He did little things like that that showed he has the arm strength, he has the accuracy, but he didn't do it enough. And the reason why I think he didn't do it enough is because, to be honest, when it comes to the Steelers, and as I mentioned, I can't resist taking a shot at them, I don't think that the Steelers have a quarterbacks coach. I don't think that they have a quarterbacks coach or a offensive staff that is good at developing quarterbacks. Because why? They haven't had to. They've had Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben Roethlisberger has had his problems with offensive coaches who have tried to coach him to do different things. Ben is notorious for not wanting to do certain things if he's not comfortable. And so the Steelers have a coaching staff where they have an offensive coordinator whose previous highest coaching position was being a coordinator at Arkansas State. And you have this guy coaching, trying to develop your quarterback who you drafted in the third round, who you believe maybe one day can take over. So, to be honest, Mason Rudolph had some bad games and he had some bad play. He had some games where he missed reads and missed throws, and it seemed like he got worse over the course of the year, especially after he got knocked out of a game where he had a concussion. Everybody remembers the Myles Garrett incident where Myles Garrett tried to hit him over the head with his own helmet, and he seemed to get progressively worse, and he was benched. And then finally he came back during the Jets game, and he actually played okay. But to be honest, I can't necessarily give a real good evaluation of Mason Rudolph because I see him make good throws. I see the arm talent. I see a guy who has the physical gifts, but I don't see a coaching staff that knows how to develop quarterbacks. So I can't necessarily say that he's a bust because I would love to see him with an offensive coordinator, with a quarterback coach guru who could get with him and teach him just the nuances of the NFL game. I think if he has the work ethic, because as I mentioned, we're not privy to these guys' pre-draft interview processes. We can only hear some quotes from the coaching staffs that they have in college, but I think Mason Rudolph has the want to be great, and I actually am higher on him than a lot of Steeler fans are. I actually think if Mason Rudolph is given a chance to develop with a good coaching staff, I actually think he can be a starter in the NFL. The question will be, are the Steelers going to do what's necessary to get him somebody to develop him? Or are they going to give up on him and just say, well, we saw enough film on him and we're going to give up? I can't give up on him because I can't really blame him for not being that great when you have Randy Fichtner coaching you. And yes, I know his name is not Fichtner, but I call him Fichtner because that's what I think about him every time I watch the scheme that the Steelers come out in. And I'm like, what are you doing, Fichtner? But this is just something that I think when it comes to Mason Rudolph, because I really want to see him with a real staff. So the Steelers drafted him. He was a sixth quarterback taken. We're going to see where he goes in terms of when he has another chance, if he has another chance. But that was my list, and these were my ratings of my quarterbacks during that draft. Let me know if you agree with anything that I've said, if you agree with what I've said about these guys. I know that the Cleveland Browns fans are mad already when I'm talking about Baker Mayfield, and Jets fans are ready to run Sam Darnold out of town. Josh Rosen got replaced by, Kyler Murray, and never been given another real chance to really start. Josh Allen is playing at MVP level. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. So I'm looking forward to seeing where these guys go from here. But let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. Let me know if you like what you heard. If you want to hear more, just subscribe. Please subscribe to my content. I plan on making more of these. I was supposed to put this on a whole separate sports channel, but like I said, YouTube's being funny. They're not letting me live stream on some of my other secondary channels where I separate my content at. So please bear with me. I know I do a lot of things on this channel. I kind of fancy myself as a Renaissance man. So please like, comment, and subscribe. This is Justin Bozeman doing something with Fed Up Sports Media.